Howdy, my name is Jose Medina, and I decided to do my ESL method on the Freire model. The purpose of the Freire model is to identify and define unfamiliar concepts and vocabulary. What the Freire model is it's a graphic organizer consisting of four squares with one circle in the middle. Now, the four squares are going to be labeled as follows: definition, characteristics, examples, and non-examples. In that middle circle is where you're going to have your targeted word that you want your students to know. For the sample lesson that we are doing today, I've decided to focus on democracy. So now that we have a basic idea of what the Freire model is, I'm going to go into the bulk of the lesson. So before we begin that, we got to go the following levels of language proficiency that I think are most appropriate for this is beginning and intermediate, due to the fact that it's a graphic organizer, due to the fact that the main part of this lesson is a graphic organizer. It can't work for advanced and advanced high students, but the use of that graphic organizer, I think, focuses more to the beginning and intermediate learners. The content is going to be social studies, as I mentioned democracy earlier. Now, when it comes to the content and language objectives, I'm just going to read these verbatim. So the content objective: I can demonstrate comprehension of answering the question, what are some characteristics of the word democracy? The language objective: I can orally share about the article I read about by saying, I read about blank. Some characteristics of democracy are blank. Some non-characteristics of democracy are blank. Some examples of democracy are blank. When it comes to the TEKS, I believe the one that's most fitting for is 113.11 Social Studies, Section B, Knowledge and Skills. Section 15, Social Studies Skills. The student communicates in oral and visual forms. The student is expected to express ideas orally based on knowledge, create and interpret visuals, including pictures and maps. Lastly, when it comes to the ELBs, the reading is going to be C4I, which shows comprehension through basic reading skills. Writing, C5B, write using newly acquired vocabulary. Speaking, use new vocabulary in stories, descriptions, and classroom communication. Now that we have the blueprint for the lesson, I thought we'd go into how to fill out the Freire model. So before you start the reading, you have your students write in that circle what the target word is. As I mentioned earlier, democracy. So you give them the word and then you give them the definition. The definition of democracy is going to be government of the people, by the people, for the people. Be sure to keep that part very simple because you don't want to give them you don't want to give them the answers. So by giving them a brief definition, it gives them an idea, but it gives them it makes them look and work for what they need to when it comes to filling out this chart. During the reading, you'll have them put their pencils down. No writing, you just want them to focus on the reading, comprehend what they're reading. After the reading is when the Freire model becomes complete. This is when the classroom engages in discussion about the topic, and it makes your job as a teacher easier because all you have to do is ask the questions that are specific to this topic. So you can ask the questions like, what are characteristics of democracy? And then you'll obviously phrase, after reading, what are the characteristics of democracy? After reading, what are examples or a non-example? Stuff like that. And then once you get some good answers, and you will, then your Freire model will become complete. Lastly, to conclude in this video, I believe that this strategy is appropriate for English learners as they further develop their proficiency in English, because it's not just working on one focus. So, for example, when I was talking about the ELBs, it's working on reading, writing, and speaking. So, the reading, they're obviously reading the article that's provided to them. The writing, they're writing down this stuff on their examples, non-examples on the Freire model. And then speaking, the classroom discussion, things like that. I believe that that's beneficial to their learning, and it's beneficial to their learning, and it does more than just one thing. So when it comes to the field experiences that I said when I've used this in, I believe that students have a better understanding of the word rather than just regurgitating definitions. And I feel like that's what a lot of the educational system does now, is just regurgitate definitions. This chart actually allows the students to get examples and non-examples, so they have a better understanding of it, of this one word that they're focusing on. Now, as we end, I just wanted to show you the completed chart. So right here, you have the word democracy. I'm sorry for the poor crime equality.